Okay, I do believe we're on the hour. So welcome to Hendricks How-Tos. My name is Finnigan. I am a Hendricks Big Leap coach, and I want to share with you one of my favorite practices that has supported me over the years, and it's called Wiggle. It's the fear melter Wiggle. It's the fear melter that Katie Hendricks developed for our freeze fear response. Like all of you, I'm sure, even recently, quite recently again, I was reading about how fear is really good for us. It's there to protect us. And if I think back to the cave era, when there were predators chasing us, it helped us to either fight or run or do what we needed to do. Welcome, Zabula. Yeah, but I don't know about you, but for me, that fear goes off multiple times, and often it's a perceived threat. It's a threat that may not actually culminate in a predator that's chasing me. So, even quite recently, it was seeing someone's name appear in my inbox, and there was fear, a fear response. Because of the past interaction we had had, it was like, oh my goodness, what are they going to say? So for me, that looks like often the body locking up and stopping breathing. So a real exaggerated freeze response. Yeah. At a more subtle level, because I do think this actually happens subtly sometimes as well. It might just be, I might be tapping away at my keyboard and there might be so I'm holding my breath. I may not even notice it, but it's affecting my physiology. So the response to begin to thaw the freeze or melt the freeze is wiggle. And so the invitation is to move our body, to move any parts, all parts of our body in response to begin to melt and thaw that freeze response. I also would like to share another thing that has happened for me, and maybe you can think about the events that have happened in your life, but something that's happened for me and quite recently is with my mother earlier this year. Sadly, she passed in October, but with her, there was a time when I was at home with her and I was helping her to get ready to go into bed, and we were both standing against the side of her bed. We had pulled the duvet cover back, and the next step was to get into bed. And at that point, my mother lost her balance and went backwards and hit her head and fell first on her head on the bathroom floor. And literally, there was a sound and she bled as well. And I thought at that moment she was dying. And I got a huge fright and wasn't sure how to resource myself at the moment. I didn't want to leave her thinking she might be dying, but I also needed to get help. Afterwards, the sound of my mother's head hitting the bathroom floor, I could replay it in my head, and I did, and I replayed it, and not that I wanted to, but it was happening. And I remember talking to Julie Colwell, who's another Hendricks coach, and Julie said, the response is to wiggle, to shake, to help move the energy through. And so I did. I took that on and I shook and I wiggled for kind of as long as I needed to help move that energy through my body. And it made a really big difference. The next time I was visiting my mother, I was volunteered to take her to the toilet in their bedroom, the same bathroom where this event happened. She wanted to go in by herself. I realized I felt scared about that and I honored it, but I also realized I was back in the room where the accident, the fall had happened, and all those memories came flooding back. And so I shook a bit more. I wiggled in an effort to move the energy through. My understanding is, and Peter Levine, I think, brought this into the world through his somatic work, where he talks about animals, and you imagine the antelope, and you know the lion or the tiger has got its jaws around the antelope's throat. The lion or tiger gets distracted or bored, it moves away. The first thing the antelope does, and I watched this on a YouTube yesterday, is it actually starts to shake. It shakes and shakes and shakes a bit more, and then gets up and runs away. Apparently, if we shook or wiggled more often when something traumatic or something happens, we're less likely to experience post-traumatic stress, because it's less likely to get stuck in our bodies. It's more likely to move through. So my invitation to all of us is to wiggle. And given what I said right at the beginning, how, you know, it can be, I gave that example of seeing someone's name in my inbox and being scared about what they were going to say and holding my breath. You know, how many times are we doing that during the day? And, you know, sometimes I think we could proactively wiggle, but maybe it's just an amount of wiggling fear melters that actually help us to process the freeze moments that happen in our day that we're even unaware of. So just to help them to move through. So some ideas for how to wiggle and how to bring wiggling into your life. Of course, you can wiggle any and all parts of your body. I notice once I start, my body just wants to keep going. The face flap is one of my favorites. So, you know, we can store a whole lot of fear in our face as well. So I love the invitation to do that. I also like the dead ant. So getting down on your back on the floor and then flailing your feet. It's harder for me to do a foot demonstration today. Your feet and hands in the air. That can be a whole lot of fun. Not to forget the micro fear melter move. So the micro wiggle move, and you might just like to try this now. You can be in a meeting at a desk, and you can just gently start to wiggle your fingers and your toes, and then begin to feel the ripple effect of all of that going through your body. Like, I just naturally start to notice it moving through my body, and I must admit the rest of my body wants to join in. So the invitation's there. Who knows, in your office setting you might end up having a bit of a wiggle party. But yeah, the option is to be discreet and to do it at a smaller level if that feels right for the context that you're in. So I'd like to invite you all, perhaps after this, to put on your favorite song, to wiggle in whichever way feels really yummy for you. And perhaps towards the end of your song, you might like to do some creative joint play, so moving your joints in new and different ways, and asking yourself, what do I really want? What do I really want? Yeah, so that's my invitation for you to experiment, try this out, see if it lands for you. What is your experience with it? So thank you all very much for joining me for Hendricks How-Tos and today's How to Wiggle. I've really enjoyed sharing the time with you. And until next time, happy wiggling. Cheers.